and get that information. And you can either do it yourself or you can engage your processor to help you. But you, as the merchant, are required to be PCI compliant. It's not who's processing your data. They are required to be PCI compliant as well, and you can ask them for their certificate. Once you become PCI compliant, your business will be issued a certificate of compliance.
And is there any fees or anything associated with becoming PCI compliant?
It varies by processor. The company I work with has no cost to implement the PCI program. There is a $14.99 monthly PCI fee that covers the quarterly network scans, any updates on information, update to the policy manual. We create the entire policy manual for you based on your business's types of transactions and how you receive, store, and transmit data. It varies by company. Some companies charge $60 to take the annual questionnaire. It depends on if the PCI compliance is outsourced or if it's done in-house. Company I work for does it in-house, so there's no cost to implement the compliance program for the merchant. There's just a monthly fee for the ongoing electronic quarterly network scans and the updates to any information.
So with online businesses, this is just as important, even though they don't have the terminal.
Absolutely, because even though the data from the cardholder, your customer, is stored on the server of whoever's doing the processing for you, you are receiving that payment, so you must be PCI compliant.
So you said it was actually effective of December 2012, but I know there's some people probably that is hearing this for the first time. So are there anything they should be concerned with if they're doing it this year in 2014?
Yes, I would do it as soon as possible. Here's why. The high-tech rule, which is one of the medical arena's recent regulatory rules, has designated that now state governments can derive income from doing HIPAA audits. And that's linked with PCI compliance. So up to now, there hasn't been a big move in the government to, perform audits on whether or not people were PCI compliant. So basically, the risk was on the business owner. I do foresee that departments will be created because states need revenue. So I believe that is going to be not just for the medical arena, but in general, the beginning of the formation of departments that do compliance audits for businesses, for any merchants that take any form of electronic payment. So you need to become PCI compliant so that, first of all, you educate yourself about how to receive, store, and transmit data in a way that keeps your client data safe, or your customer data safe. And then you also will need to be compliant just because government regulatory issues are going to change that are going to, start producing audits.
Wow. I mean, I guess the government is trying to make a little extra money any way they can.
Well, the door has been opened. We shall see how quickly that is implemented. However, it's in the best interest of the business owner just to protect themselves, to become knowledgeable so they can protect themselves and they can protect their cardholder data. When a customer does business with a merchant, it is assumed by the customer that the merchant will be proactive in trying to protect their financial information. So it's becoming, there's legislation introduced that allows the consumer now to sue the business owner as a claimant or a victim in a crime when there is a data breach, and that's where these audits are going to come in. So I would strongly encourage people to contact the people that they're working with and make sure that they know that their business is PCI compliant and they maintain the PCI compliance on an ongoing basis. It's not a difficult thing to maintain once it's in place. It's a matter of getting it implemented, and that's where you should lean on your processor.
Don't you also feel, because I know that with technology, it seems like technology is way ahead of even some of our security, approaches, because with banks and everything, I would love to say that I've never had a letter from a company or a bank that said your information may have been compromised, but that is becoming almost the norm nowadays, isn't it?
It's much more frequent, and that's because, as I said, the U.S. is a target now because that data is stored on terminals, and hackers can access that electronically. Interestingly, that couple decades ago, people were aware of viruses. Now there's interactive malware where the cyber criminal can direct software to perform a function just like they did with viruses. But now it can perform a function, give feedback back to the cyber criminal, and then they can give it direction as to what to do next. So it's interactive malware. It's a much more sophisticated form of cyber crime than used to be something we had to worry about. So it is a full-time job keeping ahead of the curve, and I'm very proud and comfortable that my company is a leader in the industry on the security piece because it's something that the small business owner wears many hats. It's something that I, as a small business owner, didn't want to become an expert in, but in the industry I work in now, I feel like I'm doing a service, educating people about it. But the typical small business owner has too much to do to take on a part-time job, learning about cybercrime. And so it's very important to lean on the people that you use as experts to help you cover the areas of your business that you don't want to become expert with.
Now, Leah, one question I have about PCI DSS, a complaint. You had stated earlier that you go from a level 4 to level 1. Explain that, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you merchants processing over $6 million annually are typically classified as a level 1. So they're going to be required to have an annual report on compliance by a qualified security assessor, and they're going to have quarterly network scans, and they're going to have an attestation of compliance form completed. And those are all activities that are typically done by a company of that size would have a security department or a compliance department. Level 2 would be merchants processing 1 to 6 million in transactions. And they'll have, again, the annual self-assessment questionnaire, and that doesn't take a lot of time, typically, maybe 20 minutes or something. They'll have a quarterly network scans and attestation of compliance form completed. Merchants processing 20,000 to 1 million typically have the annual security questionnaire, quarterly network scans, and attestation of compliance form. So these are all similar requirements regardless of the level. The problem is, then level 4 is merchants processing less than $20,000 for Visa e-commerce transactions annually, and all other merchants processing up to $1 million. And they'll have the questionnaire, annual security questionnaire, the quarterly network scans, and the compliance validation requirements that are set by acquirer. But all of the 12 steps of the PCI compliance need to be completed by all merchants. So you don't get out of any of the requirements just because of the volume you're processing. That's for the technical requirements. But when you're classified as a level 4, when you move down in classification if you have a data breach, because then you're a high-risk merchant. You've demonstrated that you either were not knowledgeable or you allowed activity to occur that caused the data breach. So then you're going to have more requirements. You're going to have an annual audit. And that's at your own expense. That's not at the industry expense. You pay for that audit. And that's not a fun proposition. That takes your time. It takes time away from your business. So you're downgraded from a risk standpoint. So your fees are going to be higher. You're going to pay more for your processing because all the processing cost in my industry is based on risk. So the card transactions, from all the way down to the basic card transaction, if you have a card present transaction and it's coming out of a bank account, that's a low risk transaction. That's called a qualified transaction. Affinity or points cards are mid-qualified. Corporate cards are non-qualified. So all pricing in the industry is based on risk and underwriting in the industry. When you are downgraded from a risk standpoint from PCI compliance, you're going to pay more for all of your processing.
Okay, well, that's what that means. Because that's what level one must not be where you want to be.
No, and that's not even counting the exposure in the community, and the reluctance or resistance that the consumer would have to use their card in your establishment. They may go to another establishment. So, people don't carry a lot of cash on them now. So I think the average is $70 or something. That's if what you have costs more than $70 and you don't take credit cards, you're losing business. But that's what the statistics are currently. So if you have a data breach in your business, that's community information, and you're going to lose business if you're not proactive and do have a data breach.
So Leah, for people that's online that doesn't have a traditional store in a terminal, but now that they know that they need to be PCI compliant, what are the 3 things you recommend that they do this week?
First of all, contact the people who they're having do the processing for them. And then find out, what the 12 steps to compliance are so they can ask good questions of those processors. And then set a deadline for yourself to get this done. It's something that could be done within, a week's time. It's not something that has to take a long time to do. Find out what it's going to cost to do that. So I would say, first of all, look up the 12 steps on the PCI Council website, and then call your processor and say, look, I know I need to become PCI compliant. What do you offer as far as assistance in making that happen, and how soon can we do that? And hold their feet to the fire and get some deadlines set so that you can get it actually done, completed, and out of the way.
Now, what is the website for the council? Now, I know you just wrote an article for Launch Over 40 that people can find on the PCI compliancy, especially if they listen to this and want a little more details. But do you have the actual website for that?
Yes. Let me give that to you. Let's see. It's PCISecurityStandards.org. So it's www.PCISecurityStandards.org. And it says right on there, if you're a merchant of any size accepting any credit cards, you must be in compliance with PCI Security Council standards. So it will educate you along the way. There's the actual compliance manual is about an inch thick, but there is, as I said earlier, a 36-page quick start guide. So, but they can answer questions for you too. They'll be happy to if you contact someone there. But your processor is who is going to tell you what services they have available to give you assistance directly. Whether they do the annual security questionnaire in-house or they outsource to a third party, and you have to call that third party. They'll give you that information.
Now, the great thing is your company actually assists people with it for free. Matthew, you have it in place for all your merchants that you work with, correct, Leah?
Yes. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they don't really have a merchant yet, or they may be dealing with PayPal but don't want to go through them for the PCI and pretty much maybe looking for a better option. How can they get in contact with you?
My direct cell number is 302-463-8989. And you can reach me by email at Leah, Leah, .gray, Gray, at WorldPay, WorldPay. Let me say that again, WorldPay.US. We are the U.S. division of WorldPay International. We do specialize in small business.
Now, Leah, a 302 is Delaware number. Do I have to be in Delaware to work with you?
No. That's just my local contacts. The people know I'm going to come to them face to face. But if you're in another state, I'm happy to work with you. I can work with anyone that is referred to me whatsoever. So it doesn't matter where you work or where you live. I'd be happy to be of help.
So basically, I can contact you. You can set me up my electronic payment system, and then you would actually direct me right away to start the PCI compliant program.
Absolutely. You should be PCI compliant within 30 days of us actually activating your account. So there's really no excuse for anyone not to be PCI compliant within 30 days of activating their account, including all of the steps that are necessary.
Wow. Now, do you sound like you had the whip? You're like 30 days or else.
No, but I have systems in place to make sure that, I follow up with people to make sure that they do, that we do get that done. It's really an important piece of operating your business. And people work too hard in their businesses to be exposed to a data breach that can put them out of business, just for lack of a little bit of information and some assistance from someone in my industry.